Subscribe to Herb Rally, or else you'll be caught out in the cold. Oh, man. Oh. The Kagana! Oh! There's another dip. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh. All right. I think that's good.
Hey everybody, this is Mason and you're tuning into Herb Rally. Today's episode is the lost episode of the Herbalist Hour with Indigenous herbalist Nathan Wright. So why is it the lost episode? Well, we filmed this about a year ago in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we're just now receiving footage from Nathan that he filmed while we did this interview. And the footage you've probably already seen, a little bit of the clips, is of him jumping into Lake Michigan with almost no clothes on. So we really wanted to release this episode with that footage, and we finally got it. So shout out, thanks Nathan for the video footage. And one of the reasons why it took Nathan so long is he's had a whirlwind of a year organizing events such as the Northwoods Nature Fest, which is actually happening this year as well, May 30th to June 1st. It's going to have herbalists such as Jim McDonald, Matthew Wood. Of course, Nathan will be there as well. And I want to say Matthew Wood, if I'm getting it correctly, he calls it the greatest little undermarketed herbal fest in the Northwoods. So very solid words from the one and only Matthew Wood regarding that event. I will leave a link to the event's website in the podcast show notes and the YouTube description, etc. So definitely check that out if you're in the area. So speaking of HerbalLodge.com, Nathan's company, Nathan was generous enough to give Herb Rally podcast listeners a 15% off discount coupon code on any of their products. So if you go to HerbalLodge.com, you can use coupon code HR15 at checkout to receive 15% off. And at home, we've got the Minigan, the Chaga tea, that's the Chaga mushroom tea, pain relief salve, and there's a whole lot more on the website. So check it out at herbalLodge.com. Use coupon code HR15 to receive 15% off your next order. And if you don't end up making it to the Northwoods Nature Fest, Nathan's always traveling around teaching various classes such as permaculture, wild rice cultivation, mushroom foraging, as well as cold water exposure, which again, you'll see in this episode him talk quite a bit about that. Also, just wanted to say a shout out and thank you to our presenting sponsor of the Herbalist Hour. That's Oshala Farm. Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic herb farm based in my home state of Oregon. I'm in Wisconsin right now. I live in Wisconsin, but I'm from Oregon. I know Elise and Jeff, the owners, so I highly trust their growing methods and ethics. So if you're looking for organic, U.S. grown herbs, dried herbs, along with other, spice blends, tea blends, etc., check out Oshala Farm at oshalafarm.com. And I think that's going to do it for me today. Again, check out Nathan's work at herbalLodge.com. All links will be in the podcast and YouTube description, show notes. And that's going to do it for me today. Enjoy today's episode. Well, before I get into that, dear listener, if you're only tuning into this on the audio, I highly recommend you check out the video version as well, as you'll get to see Nathan in all of his glory jumping into Lake Michigan with, like I said before, not many clothes. So thanks, Nathan, for the footage. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in. That's going to do it for me today. Enjoy today's episode with Nathan Wright. I will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm really excited to have on Nathan Wright. Thanks for making the time to do the episode with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here at the Herbalist Hour. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Yeah, we're going to get really into the cold water experience. But first of all, where are you from?
I'm from Petoskey, Michigan.
Okay.
So just if you're familiar with the way we do the Michigan ham, we're right about here, right just north of Traverse City, Michigan.
Awesome. And we met halfway here in Muskegon.
Manistee.
Oh my gosh. Manistee. And I first want to say shout out and thanks to the Comfort Inn in Manistee for allowing us this space to record this interview. We're also going to record some of this interview out in the Lake Michigan,
Yes.
which is super exciting. I don't know, are you nervous?
You know, the waves there are the biggest waves I've ever encountered doing this. So I'm always a little intimidated at first going in there. But, you know, this is one of the reasons why I do the cold water experiences. It's because of that challenge and to overcome them in a safe way.
Sure.
You know, I don't want to say I know my limits, because I don't think any of us know our limits. But I like to do things in a safe way, and I generally like to go into waters that I've been into before, and in this case I haven't been into those particular waters. But I looked around and it looks like someplace that I could do it. I didn't see any they call them undertows. I didn't see any of that, but that's something you generally can't see.
Right.
But interesting story with that lighthouse that's out there. I believe it was this one. Back when I was a little kid, my stepdad was fishing off there. But I remember this really big fish. I mean, you know, I don't know how big it was really, but as you know, in your mind as the memory, it's like, you know, super big. And I remember it kept coming up to his fish line, because you could see at that time down clearly into the water, and it would look at the hook and then kind of back away. And it just kept doing it. It kept looking at the hook and then backing away, and he never caught it. But that's my recollection of that particular
That's cool.
lighthouse. We used to come
All
up to I think it's called Indian Lake, which is
I saw that on the map.
right,
Yep.
which is near the Kitchie Springs. I can't say the whole thing, but Kitchie Springs.
That's the big spring.
That's the big
Yeah.
spring that has really huge fish in it, and it's really crystal clear. And I wish there was a way for me to go in there, but I don't think it's legal to do that. So I think that was kind of the original ideal, and then we found that out, and now we're not far from it, but.
So everything we're doing today is legal.
It's totally legal,
All right,
as
that's good.
far as we know right now at this moment.
Right. Well, I have to know, why did you get into this whole cold water experience?
You know, it started kind of in a gradual progression. It started with some ceremonies that I was learning to do, where we basically in the springtime we would bring an offering to Mishapishu, who is the underwater panther, and it's one of the legends of Ojibwe culture. And the simplest way to explain it, there's like a yin and a yang. The thunderbird is the yin, and the Mishapishu, the underwater panther, is the yang. And what happens is when springtime rolls around, they start to fight each other with the thunder, and they do this to kind of create a balance. And if they don't do it, then things are out of balance. So they have to do that. So whenever we hear the first thunders, I get really excited as Anishinaabe, and we say the thunder beings are coming in. Mm-hmm. You know, and we're a lot of us don't know too much about the Mishapishu, so we're just learning some of the things because we have to recover some of our culture. But a lot of people are starting to talk about Mishapishu now. I'm starting to see that entity being mentioned in stories and paintings. And if you're familiar with Agua Canyon up in Ontario, they have some petroglyphs that are on side of a boulder, and Mishapishu is one of them.
Okay.
And but it's believed that he lives up in she lives up in Michipicoten area, and primarily Lake Superior. But you know, the Great Lakes are all connected. And there was an interesting video that came out 3-4 years ago, maybe even longer, that was down south. And there were these two black looking things that were 6 or 8 feet long, maybe even longer. I can't say they're fish, but they almost look like a black snake. And it was during a storm. They came up on this dock, and then they blew off the dock. And actually, I have an article I could maybe give to you that talks about that, and also has a link to that particular video. But so we were doing an offering, and the offering entails me going out in the water in the early spring. And where I went, there's these big boulders, we call them grandfathers, and they're all around Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. So all these big boulders that you see offerings were done by the area tribes. every spring. And basically the reason why we did that is we wanted to be safe out there in the lakes when we fished. We wanted to make sure no one would drown or anything like that. So when we traveled, everything would be safe. So that was our way of contributing to nature's balance, was to be given that respect to Mishipishu, who represented the water. So I walked out to this spot in early spring, and it was pretty cold, and I ended up going up to here, which I didn't expect it was going to be that deep. And then what was really cool about that moment is there was actually a stepping stone. And it was flat, it was perfect, and I put my foot right on it, and I lifted up perfectly, because I was wondering how I was going to reach that boulder. I'm 6'4", but the boulder was still, so I stepped right up on it. It was like a 2 feet step. I mean, it was really easy, and it was just like it was made. And it was just like, that was like a connection to my ancestors right there, because I know good and well they
felt it immediately.
They used that same exact, to do the same exact thing. And I threw that up there, that offering came back down. So that's how I kind of got started with it, was through that ceremony.
Just a quick break from the show to thank our presenting sponsor, Oshala Farm. Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic herb farm based in Southern Oregon, where they grow and sell over 80 different plant species. The founders, Elise and Jeff Higley, have been longtime friends, so I highly trust their growing methods and ethics. You'll love the potency and vibrancy of all the herbs they have to offer. To learn more and purchase their herbs and other organic goods, head to oshalafarm.com. So thanks once again to Oshala Farm for sponsoring the Herbalist Hour. Now back to the show. Enjoy. So it sounds like it's a spiritual practice for you. Are you noticing any, say, like benefits, like health benefits from doing the cold water experience?
Yes, but I should add.
Yeah, please.
I should add the buildup to after that happened. Yeah. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. Then me and a friend started going in. I was asked to do a music video, where I did the same thing, where I walked in, kind of reenacted that for the music video, and then, you know, it was for a water protection video. And then from there, I just started. I don't even know the first time I actually dove in, but it was right around that time with a friend of mine, Dan Hinman. And it was a little intimidating at first. And this was at a time when it really wasn't that popular at all around here in Michigan. You know, in Ontario it was, but not so much here in Michigan. So there really wasn't much information about it, or anything that I knew about it. So I kind of did it by trial and error, had to overcome. The biggest thing with the water experiences is that you have to overcome your fear. So it gradually went from there. And last year, if you would have asked me, last year I did it for 60, it was either 40 days in a row or 60 days in a row, starting in April. And the one time that I started in April, which was mid-April, we had really nice weather. It was like 60-degree weather or something like that for 2 days. And I figured, I'll just start doing the water experience now, because the weather's good and it's going to be nice out. Well, that was nice for 2 days. And then the third day, it dropped, and then the snow came and all that stuff. So I had to continue to do it, because I was inspired by an Odawa elder. His name is Andrew Blackbird. He wrote a book in the late 1800s, where essentially what he says, and maybe we could put this up on your site. Yeah. This you'll go in the water for 10 days straight to keep your body strong, and keep you good on the warpath, and make you healthy. Sure. Basically. Yeah. And we asked around to find out when in early spring that was, and it was around May 1st. So he was the inspiration for this. That kind of, everything I'm doing right now was a gradual thing that happened. So I did the 60 days straight last year, April to whenever, and I tried to stay under the 45-degree temperature as things got warmer. So I started going to springs, and I was going into little springs, and some of the springs I went into, I'm not really sure if I was supposed to, because they were in these parks, but there was no sign that said, don't go in the spring. Right. But I went in there and to keep that 45 degree. If it went over 45, I didn't like it. Yeah. It was, to me, I felt like I was cheating.
How are you measuring the temperature?
I use a little thermometer that I put in. But the surface water temperature is different, which is, it only goes down that deep. Okay. And it's colder at the bottom. Yeah. So most springs I found in Michigan are at the 45 degree in the summertime. Mm-hmm. In the wintertime, it's different. It's a lot colder. It's more like 35, 37. You know, it depends. If there's ice around in there, you know, it could be colder. It depends on the spring itself, how cold it is in the spring that's emptying the water out. So.
You mentioned the fear. Does Andrew Blackbird talk about the fear in that book that he wrote?
No, he just says it makes your body strong, and it's something that we should all do. So,
do you think the fear is like the fear of discomfort or actual fear for your general safety?
I think it's a combination. It
Yeah.
depends on who you are. It could be both, though.
Totally.
My thought, in theory, on our fear of cold water, because I had it too, I suppose, is that it stems from comfort, what's been given to us. So as we become more modern in this world, we are given things, like we're not growing our own food, we're not, there's just things that are being given to us, and then we're told heat is good, you know.
70-degree perfect weather.
Yeah, your mom's cooking, you know, the vacations. You got to go down. Right now, we should be going down to Costa Rica rather than staying up in this miserable weather.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're ingrained that cold is bad for us. Yeah. And then, you know, the snowbirds go down to Florida, you know, from here. And it's ingrained as us that's cold, that's bad for us. Yet, when we go to the doctors with a swollen arm or a broken arm, what's the first thing they tell you?
Put ice on it.
Put ice on it, put heat on it. Put ice on it, put heat on it. So with cold water, and this is the part that people have a hard time with understanding, cold water is the same as hot water. It's just the opposite. So the benefits that you get from the hot water, you could also get from the cold water. And that's a hard thing to wrap your head around when you're first starting out. For those of you that do it, they know exactly what I mean. And so that's the first barrier, is getting over that thought that the cold water is bad.
Right.
Oh, this is going to hurt me. This is going to kill, whatever you're thinking. And most people will never, ever even cross that line. But when you start to cross it, and I see you kind of shivering a little bit. But when you cross that line, then there's other challenges that you have to face, such as the ice. When I was in Chicago, there was these big ice slabs that were like 4x4. My first thought was, these are going to cut my legs off if I get caught in the middle of them. So that was a barrier, and the waves themselves are a barrier. That cold water being thrown at me, that's a lot different than walking into it, which is a little bit more relaxing. But cold water, someone's taking a big 55-gallon drums and throwing it right at you. So you have to adjust to it. So I'm sure you'll see me out there doing that adjustment with my facial expressions. You know,
we'll zoom right in on your face.
so it's every time I go out, now that I've done some really cold moments, such as the one that I did in mid-January on the coldest day of the year, with 2 feet of snow around me and a winter weather advisory happening at the same time, was totally unplanned. I just wanted to go out when it was the coldest day of the year, so I could say, hey, I went out on the coldest day of the year. Yeah. I've overcome this challenge. I reached the max of the coldest that you could possibly do, but it ended up being worse than that. And that's going to be on my YouTube, The Spirit Man from the Sun, which we could talk about later. But I know we're kind of all over right now with the cold water, but it's I've found it to be a very expanding part of my identity. And then I've also found it to be a very connective part to who I am as an Anishinaabe, who I am as an Indigenous herbalist, who I am as a person that loves nature, who I am as a person that loves to connect to the land. Like, it all ties in, and somehow I found a way to merge it all together in a way that hopefully makes sense to most people. And now I want to hopefully share that with people. And there's other people that do it, but I do what's called the experience. I'm not doing it just for the physical aspects of it, which are important, or for the mental aspects of it, which are important. I'm doing it also for the connection. And in a lot of ways, it's helped improve my life on a lot of different levels.
Are you on a streak right now? Have you been doing it also for the past 60 days right now or so?
I haven't been doing it every day. I've been doing it every few days. Now, I typically will do it right now 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
If I have to do it every day, I can and will. It's just that I've been so busy right now. I'm harvesting, so I'm limited with my time, and I also try to run or ski, depending on how the weather is right now. So I do.
Have you been to Iron Mountain skiing down that big hill before?
No, I can't make it up that far right now. This time
Sure.
I have right in my area. There's a really nice groomed ski trail that when we had that snow in the middle of January, I went out there every day for 7 days straight, and then that was it. The snow was done. You know, it melted. Then I had to get back to running again. So
Yeah, it's been crazy weather.
Yeah.
Is part of your mission to promote other people to get into cold water experience? Like, is that what you're trying to do with your message? Do you want more people to go through this?
I think my first message is for people to connect to the lands around them.
Whether you're doing cold water experience or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether you're taking a walk in nature, whether you're out in your garden. I think a lot of us that are herbalists or people that are gardeners, we've had that experience of what that connection's like. But I like to add in that indigenous connection, which I guess is something I grew up with, that I'm natural at, but a lot of people aren't. I've had a lot of people come to me and ask me questions about that. So I started doing these classes called Land Back. And we did them at the International Herb Symposium and then down at the Great Lakes Herb Fair. And people really love it. And it always surprises me. Like, why are people liking this? And it's maybe just the view that I have, my cultural view.
Totally.
And I think it helps people. You know, I have people come back to me and talk to me, very moved by what I said. And even the offering of tobacco, which is something a lot of indigenous people are known for doing. You know, is it okay if I can do it? You know, people asking me that aren't Anishinaabe. And I'm like, well, we were taught to do this here, and we were the people here at the time. Why wouldn't that apply to anyone else that was here? To me, it's a sign of respect, you know, and if you're harvesting some medicines that are on this land where these teachings were given, it would be proper to maybe follow that rule that was given to us. So, you know, people have asked me about that. And I think,
As far as like cultural appropriation type of stuff goes?
well, I don't think that would fall into it, because to me, cultural appropriation is when you're taking something and maybe monetizing it or making money from it or career-wise benefit to it or something like that.
Totally.
When you're doing a prayer, there's no one else around, you know what I mean? It's just you and Creator. You're doing that prayer. So that's the way I look at that. And I know there's all kinds of different things on culture appropriate, but that's mainly, to me, it's when you take space from somebody that's indigenous. When we're talking about indigenous cultural appropriation, it's different for every culture. Every culture has a different perspective on that.
Sure.
And indigenous people, I think, are a lot more sensitive to these types of issues because they had all their land taken.
Right.
You know? So they're, you know, and then they went to the boarding schools, which, you know, they were trying to have their culture taken. So naturally, we're going to be a little bit more sensitive to that type of stuff because we've already had enough things taken from us. And we're at a stage in where we are at in recovering our culture and language where we want to keep these things. And if anything, what I like to promote is that other indigenous cultures, because we all were in one at one point, is to help encourage people to learn about their own indigenous cultures and bring those teachings back. Because I think we're at a point in this world where we need to kind of look back at those indigenous teachings that we all had and learn from them. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people gravitate towards Native American culture, is because deep down in their spirit, in my personal view, there's something that makes sense. And we have this story in Anishinaabe. The story is that Creator, when he created the world, and this is just how we say it in the story. It's not to offend anyone. It's just the way it's been told to me. But they have the 4 directions. And you notice they have the white, the red, the black, the yellow. Well, we were told that these are the different races. The white race, the black race, the red race, and then the yellow race. So he gave all of us the same exact teachings. But then he sent us to different areas of the world. And then from there, things changed. Because then that's when the rulers came in, the kings came in, And they took those teachings and they started twisting them around and making it into something different. So indigenous culture is probably one of the only ones where a lot of that was retained. That stuff that just makes sense. How to live with nature, how to be at one with nature, how to respect nature, all these things. So I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards it and they want to learn it. And I think that's where some of the misappropriation, I don't think some people are intending to do that or they don't realize they're doing it, but it just happens in just maybe their excitement. You know what I mean? But then when they do realize it, because most people don't realize they're actually hurting indigenous people when they're doing it. You know, they don't realize it. But hopefully when they find out, they're kind of like, oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't do that. And I mean, that's a whole another topic. I like this saying that we also have another teaching is if you do things in a good way, good things will happen.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
Can you expound more upon that?
Yeah, well, just that. I mean, you do things in a good way, good things will happen. You do things in a bad way, bad things will happen. So sometimes when we get confused about our cultural teachings, we go back to this, the intent. What was that person's intent? Was it meant in a good way, or were they intending to do things in a deceiving way? And when you figure out, well, they were probably trying to do things in a good way, and they just did it wrong, but it was their intent. They had a good heart. Your heart is I always like to say it's your first teacher, is your heart in Anishinaabe culture. It's not your mind, it's your heart. And there's a birch bark drawing that was done by Chief Buffalo back in the 1850s when he and a bunch of other chiefs were going to Washington to negotiate treaty rights. He was out of Minnesota, I think La Pointe, which is Madeline Islands now. And he drew this birch bark picture, and it was a picture of a Crane clan, which he was a member of. That's what I'm a member of too. And then he had all the other clans behind him. I think there was a beaver in there, and these different clans. There's about 5 or 6 of them. Each one of those animals represented the chiefs. And then he did something interesting. He drew from their hearts a connection to all of their hearts, just a line. Like almost, it was a rudimentary kind of pencil-like drawing, but it had a lot of symbolism. Heart, heart, heart. And then that drawing went into the lakes. And then it also came out of the lakes and it went back into them. It started up again. And he did that with the mines too. But that's just a really great way of explaining an introductory to how indigenous people think that our hearts are connected to the land just as much as we are connected to one another. And our minds are also connected to the land. So we're here, what he was depicting was we were all coming here together. We were one with the land and we were one with each other. And I think that was being done so the people in Washington at the time would know you're not going to be able to pull one of us aside and try to make a side deal with us because you can't, because we're one. And so that oneness, that connection to the land, a lot of us have lost it. And if we all have it and we all bring it back and work towards bringing it back, I think we're going to deal with things a lot different from we do. I view some of the people that are destroying the land, and I understand some people are doing this for a living, they have jobs and that, I get that. But I'm talking about the acceptance of a society that we currently have. Just saying it's no problem to destroy the land, we're making money from it, that capitalistic society. I think if we all had that oneness thought, that we would not do that. We would take into consideration beforehand, if we did this is the result that's going to happen. Or it's going to take 200-300 years for this to happen, to repair itself. We would be more conscientious than we are now. Now we're not. Now it's pretty much just do it. How much money it's going to make? Oh, just do it. It's money, $1 million. Just do it. And there's no laws, there's no rules, or at least not enough. But I think that's why I like to try to connect people to the lands, just for this exact reason. Because if we did connect to the lands, I think we're going to take care of our planet better. I think we're going to be healthier. We're not going to have all these toxic things floating around that are making us go to the doctors and make more money in a capitalistic society, and that's one of the reasons why I like herbalism.
Right.
Because we are a group of people that understand this, and we are all learning to be more at one with the earth, with Mother Earth.
That's one of the reasons why I like seeing the popularity grow for herbalism. Like, sure, there's a lot of commercialism aspects to it, and businesses are being built off the backs of herbalism, but at the same time, you're also getting a large group of people interested in participating with the land. So that's very encouraging. With all that being said, where does your optimism level lie for like the future with regards to people becoming more, into nature, being connected to the land? Are you optimistic for the future of humanity in general, or that's kind of a tough, huge question?
That is a huge question. I think I have to be, because we all have to be, because we wouldn't continue doing what we're doing if we weren't.
Yeah.
And even if that ends up being a small segment of the population, I still think that's good. I mean, we can't give up. And, there were things that made me a better person through hearing it from other people. So I just think it's a natural progression for us to take what we believe in and then try to encourage the younger people why we believe this way, and hopefully they'll choose, without being too preachy or anything like that, but hopefully they'll choose that this is a good path to be on, that's going to be beneficial in the long run. I mean, there was things that I did and maybe still do now that I'm still learning that aren't helping out things.
Right.
And I become more aware, of these things, and we're just learning from each other. Yeah. And I mean, to me, the ultimate goal is to be a good human all around that takes care of the planet and eats healthy, doesn't hurt other people, and, teaches and helps where they can. And a lot of that leans away from the mentality that to make as much money as I possibly can, because that's the way, this country and other countries teach people.
Yeah. Get
rich, make money. I mean, it's almost unbearable to hear someone talking about that. These videos pop up on Facebook. I could show you how to make money. This one guy was just talking today. He came up, he's like, I bought 4,500 properties and I never even viewed them once, and I made, this amount. And he's just talking so, like, it's like his soul wasn't even there.
Right.
And as an Indigenous person, it was really odd to hear that, to not even have to see the land. Like, it was foreign to me. Like, what do you mean you didn't see the land? And I understand he's making money, but just that idea, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It just, and there's sometimes like that where things like that just don't make sense to me as an Indigenous person. Yeah. It's hard to really understand. And I kind of like that about myself. I once thought that, people like Steve Jobs, all these people that were really wealthy that relatively died young, you wonder what they were thinking at the end. Like,
was it all worth it?
Well, yeah, was it worth it? Or, I should have just been like that guy that likes to hunt mushrooms out there. I mean, he probably had a really fulfilling life. So my value in life, the way I measure things, is the richness is my happiness. It's not the money. Yeah. Making a living is good. Yeah, of course. But getting on the mindset that the more I make, the better my life is going to be. I had a little taste of that when I was younger. I used to work at a pioneering internet company that did radio. And, the chasing the dollar bill, it almost seemed like the more money you made, the more problems you had.
No money, no problems.
Yeah. I mean, really, seriously, the more even your own family and friends, hey, come on, you make that money, come on, they would want to borrow money from you, want you to give it to them, not understanding that you're trying to build up your life and everything. So I used to be in the corporate world, and I seen it firsthand. I seen it, and I left it because it wasn't me, and I knew it wasn't me. I didn't fit in there.
Yeah.
I didn't fit in there at all. And I went back to what I really loved and wanted to do all along, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, and I don't know who to attribute it to, and I've always tried to live this way: he is richest whose needs are fewest.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
like, I absolutely love that. And how much money is enough?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you see people that continue to chase it nonstop. They don't
It's
stop.
probably addicting.
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But well, let's stick to some of the cold water experience stuff. And how would you recommend folks get into it? You said earlier, maybe do a little bit at a time. Are there like safety concerns you'd have? Like, I want to say I heard you speak on video, like always have someone with you when you go out there. But just kind of for the audience, if they want to get into it, what are some good ways to get it started?
That's a great question. I would say the first thing, we started in May. That's when we figured when the Anishinaabe would start in May. And, it's really hard to tell because of global climate change. Maybe this year you could start sooner because the weather has been so great. I don't know, but
It's been wild this year for the snow here in Wisconsin. Yeah, like it's all gone already.
yeah, it's definitely a weird time for weather. But I would start really simple and maybe start just with your ankles, going up to your ankles with your feet, and just go in for a little bit. And yes, have someone with you. Do it in a comfortable public place. Make sure you're healthy. You don't have any heart issues or heart problems or anything like that. Then maybe next time go up to your calves, and then maybe your knees, and then maybe your waist, and then between your waist and your heart, that's a part that I think you're pretty confident at that point. Mm-hmm. And what I did before I go out is I kind of meditate a little bit if I have to. If I'm really worked up and I just did a lot of exercising or something, I just relax. I just, just for 30 seconds, I just kind of breathe it all out. And then when I go in and when I'm doing I got to a point where my steps were to go into the knees and then to the waist and then to the chest and then up to the neck. So those are my 4 points. This is for me. And I don't go by this other guy that's out there that I never read his Wim Hof. I never read his books. This is just my technique. Yeah. And maybe they're similar, I don't know. Yeah. But I would breathe. I would breathe on each step. Mm. And then, I'd wait till I adjust, and then I would go to my waist. And then this part, I would say this part initially was a little intimidating at first, but once I overcame that, now I could go in really quickly. It used to take me a long time to transition. Not anymore, though. But I don't like jumping in. I'm not one that believes in that. Because, there's some people that do that, but I don't think you should shock your system like that. You ever heard that guy that does the cold, he doesn't believe that we should drink cold water because it's not part of our body temperature.
I've heard that theory before.
Yeah, it's kind of too shock. In the same manner, I think jumping in like that, you're kind of shocking the system a little bit too much.
So even to this day, you're going in incrementally deeper and deeper. And then I do see sometimes you'll put your whole head in, your whole body.
And I've done that, and I quit doing that because, I'll do it every now and then, but I quit doing it because I started getting headaches.
Oh, wow.
And that's from like when you eat ice cream, kind of that same type of
brain
headache.
freeze.
And now I've heard other people that don't get that, but I get them, and they could be. I talk to my doctor about this because I get, I don't go to the doctors that much except for once a year to get a physical, just to make sure I'm checked out good, and they said that that's not anything bad. It's just like a brain freeze.
Right.
So I go up to my neck now. I usually go right up to here. Now, if I had to, out here, I might be out there and it might be hitting my head because of the waves if they're still as bad as they were an hour ago.
For the audience, today's February 25th, so it's pretty chilly out there.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be good to let the audience know when we're actually recording this. We kind of briefly touched on it, but as far as benefits go, do you know if it's good for joint pain and stuff like that? I'm dealing with some inflamed knees.
You should try getting out there at least up to your knees in that. It's it's really excellent. It takes away everything, all the pain, all the inflammation, everything. I'm doing the balsam popular harvest right now.
Oh, nice. That's in one of your salves, right?
Yeah. That's like one of the main ingredients.
Okay.
And my shoulder's kind of messed up a little bit, so I'll probably do that. But that's another part. You come out, yes, you're numb, your legs are numb, stuff like that. But even after the numbness goes away, you feel incredible. You feel amazing. And you almost want to really yell that out. Like right now, I am feeling, because I'm doing harvesting, I'm carrying 50-pound packs out. That's actually, 50 pounds at least. And you get sore, I'm not going to lie to you, especially when you start out. It takes me maybe 5 days to acclimate, because it's about 3 weeks of harvesting almost every day. And you take about 5 days to acclimate your body to get over that soreness. You're still sore, but you're used to it. But when you first start out, you're working those muscles you haven't worked in a long time. So you get sore. So I'm looking forward to actually going in.
Sweet. I suspect I know the answer to this already, but what do you think about someone taking cold showers or ice baths versus actually going out in the lake? I suspect there's like the added benefits of communing with nature.
Oh, yeah.
So do you have an opinion on just doing ice baths versus going in the lake?
Sure. There's a lot of people that come to me and tell me about how they do the cold water in the showers, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't do that because I don't get out of it because I know more. You know what I mean? But when you're starting out, maybe that might be something that you do. I've never done it that way. Yeah. It just doesn't feel natural to me. I don't know why. It just doesn't. It just doesn't feel like the same at all. But I can understand for someone else that's just starting out how that could be a challenge to them, which I respect. So I don't know too much about that. I know I've only heard from people they go from hot water to cold water at the end of their shower.
That's what I do these days. But
and they leave it for 5 minutes. And so you probably could elaborate on that more.
Yeah, I got it from, I was really into Sikhism for a little bit, and they have something called Ishnan therapy, and that's what they do is they take cold showers. Like that's their form of cold water experience. But you're inspiring me to get out there. Like I want to go in the Fox River now and try it out. And I was actually going to ask you about that. If I get into this, am I hitting the mic? No. What time of day do you like to go most? Because I've seen you go out in the afternoon. I want to say I've seen you do it in the morning time. For me, I feel like that would be a nice, instead of almost a cup of coffee or something, getting out there first thing, getting out of the way. But
I think whenever you feel compelled to do it. But if you're tired and you want some energy, go out there. You'll feel great the whole day. Yeah. I've only done it a few times in the morning, but I do feel great afterwards. I've done it late at night when I had to do some work.
Okay.
Right at sunset, and I was tired. I was like, I don't feel like doing this, and I did it, and I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. Do you have any words of encouragement to the audience to get out there and go do this?
I think that everyone should try it, as long as you're in good health. I think you should have someone out there with you, for sure, always. Don't totally follow some of my work because I've done it for a while, and I'm a little on the adventurous side, but everything, I just want to do this disclaimer. Everything you see in my videos has been well thought, well planned, except for maybe the first episode of Spirit Man from the Sun, which I think we're going to call it Cold-Blooded.
Oh.
That was unplanned, but I am also a person that I've been trained, not only in the military and the Marines, but just I've been out in the woods more than the average person, probably a lot more than a lot of people. And as a result of that, I have a very, I know how to handle bad situations because I've been in them. And
You've been trained.
Yeah, well, I've trained myself too.
Yeah.
And I also, after I got out of, when we did the mid-January cold water experience, the first thing I said when I got out was I reached my limit, but then about 3 minutes later, I'm saying, well, I would do it again, but my car would have to be a little closer to it than it was this time, So someone was saying an interesting thing that was done, an experiment that was done with mice. And what they did was and I might not totally remember this correctly, but I'm going to try to come as closely as I can to it. But it was something about how the mice would swim in water, and they would swim in water for 5 minutes, and then they would pull the mice out and put the mice back in. The mice were then kind of conditioned to expect to be pulled out in 5 minutes. But if they didn't pull the mice out in 5 minutes, the mice would only swim for a little bit more and then drown. And by the way, I'm not for this type of laboratory testing, but this is just to emphasize my point.
Yeah.
Then another testing was the mice would stay in the water when you didn't pull it out. It would stay in the water longer. And I'll send you this thing because I'm probably totally not getting it exactly right. But basically, when the mice was not conditioned at all to think that there was an end point, it didn't really have an end point. It would stay in there as long as it possibly could because it just didn't have an end point. It wasn't trained to think that it had to stop. So, and that's the same way I think that we work, that we set limitations on ourselves. And I'm not saying we all go out and do crazy things. I'm not saying that at all. You have to build up to it like I've done. But when you take something like the cold water experience and you overcome these challenges that I've had to overcome, what happens is that it's almost like medicine. That medicine spreads throughout your body and your mind, and then you're able to do other things that you thought were impossible. It almost opens up your brain, and I don't have any scientific proof to it. Maybe there's a study out there someone could send to you or something after this podcast. But it just opens your mind up into other possibilities, and you're able to handle things a lot better in the world. I have anxiety, and when I do the cold water experience, it actually gets rid of it. It's gone. I'd have to do it at least every 2 or 3 days in order to keep that under, and if I don't, I could get really stressed out. And the last couple of days have been really stressful for me. I'm just starting out with harvesting the balsam poplar, and that could be very stressful, prepping, finding your locations, walking out there, all the weather. Oh my God, how much of a window do I have? So this is, for me right now, a perfect time to do this because you'll see the difference maybe afterwards. I don't know, maybe we could shoot it afterwards, but all that stress will be just gone, and I'll be happy. Plus, of course, it releases chemicals in your body that make you feel good.
Well, I'm sold. I'm gonna get on it, and I'll report back to the Herb Rally audience after I jump in the Fox River and get my cold water experience.
Right on.
So Nathan, why don't you describe what it's like going in?
Some of the challenges that you face when you go in, especially in conditions like we're seeing here with the waves, is first off, you have to get over that mental block because, right now, what's probably going through my mind is, what the hell am I doing? And why am I doing this? So, but that's part of the experience, and that's why I call it experience, because I'm not sitting in a tub, and this is what I was talking about earlier. We had talked about how people do the cold water in the shower, and then they do it in a tub, and then they do it out in the wild like I do it. Are those all different? Absolutely, positively, completely different. If you're doing it in a tub, nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of people I highly respect that do it in a tub with ice, or they keep a tub out like in this type of weather and it freezes and they have to break it open, just like going on a lake. That is something you become accustomed to, and it's still beneficial to you health-wise, but mentally, are you expanding yourself? Because are you starting to be challenged, or are you just used to doing it that way? And see, that's where the wild part comes in, where you do it in places like this, with the waves crashing against you, the things that you have to overcome, the ice that's sitting there floating next to you, these big blocks of ice. You have to overcome these types of things in your mind, these challenges, which then further take this experience, this cold water experience, and it goes beyond your mind. It goes beyond your health, your physical health. It's a challenge that you will walk away from as a memory. And the greatest parts of our life are the challenges that we face. All the greatest memories that you have right now are when you were challenged by something, good or bad. And that's why I like doing it in the wild. Plus the reconnection. Plus I'm around plants and herbs, I'm around mushrooms, all these things. So being out here in this type of water right now, I am really paying my respect to Mother Nature. Although I am potentially what some may believe in a dangerous situation, I am totally respecting Mother Earth right now at my height. My senses are all wide open. Sometimes I say prayers to my ancestors to kind of help build up myself, my confidence. I'll ask for prayers, or sometimes I might say I'm doing a prayer for everybody. And that's one of the reasons why I was doing some live streaming with me going out there. What a lot of people didn't know when I first started doing that is they were someone that was there with me, because I was doing them by myself. So it made me feel a little bit more confident knowing that there were other people there watching me in the event something happened.
Right.
You know, and I do not recommend people go out by themselves. I know I do that, but I have a lot more training and mental stamina than a lot of people do from a lifetime of of dealing with stuff. Right. So I just want to really emphasize that you don't want to do this like this. What you're seeing here in this type of scenario, you don't want to do this by yourself for sure. Build up to it. And especially if you're a young person, don't do these for like a video. Just, I'm going to do a TikTok video. This will be cool. I know a lot of younger people like to, think that this is a good thing to do for that, but it's not. It could be a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
There's these dips. There's these dips that go down and they're deep. So I got to be careful where I'm walking. So there's a dip. See, you just go down. Woo! The Kagana! Oh! The Kagana! Subscribe to Herb Rally, or else you'll be caught out in the cold. Subscribe to Herb Rally, or else you'll be caught out and left out in the cold. These dips are throwing me off, man. Oh. Oh. All my relations. Whoa, there's another dip. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh. All right. I think that's good. Ooh, almost lost my clothes now. Getting bagged pretty good. I feel wonderful. It was after those waves were hitting me like that, they almost pulled me under. So I said, okay, time to come back in. Those waves are intense. Yeah, for sure. All right.
So the respect towards Mother Earth is given back to you whenever I've embraced myself in these types of conditions. Mother Earth does magical things for you, not only in your life, but just like gifts that are given to you. Things happen for you. Things open up for you that you never expected. Yeah. If there's ever an example of a naturalist winning the lottery, that would be it. I mean, the more respect that I give to Mother Earth, the more gifts that Mother Earth gives back to me. And I swear that is true, because I've had things happen to me that I cannot explain why or how, but they usually have happened right after I've done something that was really good for Mother Earth. And I do a lot, that I don't really talk about too much. I've seeded things out in Mother Earth. I've removed some invasive species that were just invading an area to stop it from going. That's a whole nother episode. And there's just there's all these things that I've always done to show my respect towards Mother Earth. Not just making offerings of tobacco or food plates, but just beyond that, the water protection that I do. The water is life. All these things of giving back. You somehow Mother Earth, and when it happens, looks out after you and gifts you things, or gifts like an eagle up in the tree, where I'm doing the cold water experiences at. Coyotes coming in at 7 o'clock when I go in the water, which is not a normal time for them to come and start howling right on the forest edge that's right near you. Cougars either following you around when you're running, which I don't know if that was a gift or not. That's a whole other segment. Or running into a cougar food cache, which is going to be also one of the future episodes of Spirit Man from the Sun.
Oh, nice.
So just like stuff like that, stuff that doesn't normally happen, or finding one of the biggest pieces of chaga that have been that I've ever seen in recent times, and being able to get it down from 60 foot in the air, without any tools, just stuff like that, just blessings, I call them. But I also think that I see things that other people don't see because I have that connection. You know what I mean? Like, I will see things that I'll see animals that they might not see, or I'll understand what's happening better. Like, my view out in the woods is, I see it differently from most people. Yeah. I see it more because I'm connected more, and I'm paying attention more, and I have more respect. You know what I mean?
I do. I remember being in Columbine School of Botanical Studies, and Howie does this this exercise with the class. He calls it "Put Your Calypso Eyes On," and basically you're training yourself to see all of the calypsos out there. And when we were first starting out as students, I could see maybe like one or two, and then by the end of the apprenticeship, we could see like 50 calypsos in the same, similar type spot. So I feel like there's you're training yourself in a way.
You're reminding me of Dan Pine Sr., one of my first mentors, who lives up in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Really amazing person. He just passed on just recently. He was teaching me about spikenard, and we would go to an area where it grew, and I remember driving down the road with them. He would show me, like, it's right there, you see it? And I go, no, I don't see it. And he's like, it's right there. And he kept pointing, like, you see that one there? And I'm like, no, I don't see it. And I could tell. It was the only time he ever got kind of mad and frustrated with me. He's like, it's right there, you don't see it. And then I said, no, Dan, I don't see it. And he got out of the car, and it was like literally 2 feet from the car. He goes, right here. And I was like, oh, I see it now. And he's like rolling his eyes like, God, this guy. And he's like kind of like a Yoda, teaching Luke Skywalker. And I'm like not getting it at all, because he's an amazing herbalist. So he, anyways, after that happened, I just started learning more about the plant and reading about it and looking at it and everything. And then one day, bam, 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 I started seeing it even where I was at, which I didn't even think it grew in the wild. And I started seeing it everywhere. And right there I knew, like, okay, you got it, whatever happened. Then I drove back up there by myself, and I started seeing it. It was all over the place. Right. I mean, I understand why he was mad at me. There was like 50 plants in a 10 by 10 section, Right. It was everywhere. So that opening the mind, and I also believe plants call to us sometimes like that. Yeah. You'll start seeing a plant all the time, and that to me means you better learn about that plant, because it's trying to tell you, hey, you need to learn about me for some reason. Either you need me, or someone that you know needs me, or you're going to meet somebody that's going to ask you a question, and you're going to find out that I'm the plant that they need.
I was really drawn to cow parsnip, Heracleum maximus or something like that. And it's kind of invasive where I used to live in Eugene, Oregon, and my neighbors probably thought I was crazy, but I planted it in our backyard because I was really drawn to that plant. So I just wanted to be around it all the time. That's kind of what that reminds me of.
And that plant is, we call it grandfather root. It's, the elders have said that we put in all of our things that we make, because it takes medicine, takes the medicine where it needs to go. So I'm actually going to do a class on this in the future. And cow parsnip, the seeds from that, they say if you take the seeds and wash a baby in their first bath, the baby will never have skin issues, skin problems. But in my initial research, scientific research of it, there is some truth to it about it taking the medicines to where they need to go, kind of like pepper, kind of like that. It is, it's something that has been overlooked throughout the years in Indigenous culture, especially Anishinaabe culture, Ojibwe culture. Their teachings are there, and their teachings are I'm finding with the scientific research, they are accurate. There is truth to that.
Well, you mentioned your YouTube channel a couple times. Why don't you promote that? I looked at it today. I want to say there was one video.
There's one video, yeah.
So, but there's more to come.
There's more to come. So it's called Spirit Man from the Sun. This has kind of been the 4 years in the making. It's something I've been wanting to do. Basically, a lot of the things that we talked about are incorporating into this. What I did is be, able to mix herbalism, mushrooms, cold water experiences, my adventure side, the indigenous teachings, kind of all together into one area. We're going to have experiences where I go out on these adventures and things happen. And then we're going to do, sometimes we'll have special guests on there that we'll meet and talk with. And if you follow my Facebook page, you know I'm always active doing stuff, and I'm always finding a way for these opportunities to make them happen, which is another, I think, one of my gifts. You know, I met a seating president one time. We were just talking about this when we were driving up here. I make things happen.
Yeah.
I make things happen. And that's also, I think, part of my gifts that I received from Mother Earth. Like these things happen to me that don't happen to other people. And people ask me sometimes, how did that happen? And sometimes I know, sometimes I made it happen. Other times I'm like, I have no idea.
Are you a hunter and a fisher too?
I used to fish a lot, and the hunting, I've done some hunting.
Okay.
Yep, I've done some hunting.
I was just curious if you were going to share some of that stuff on the YouTube channel as well, but...
There might be a little bit of it, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, there might be a little bit on there. I think, you know, some of the first times I went out hunting, I got lucky. Mm-hmm. Like the first time, and the second time, and the third time. Yeah. I didn't have to, it wasn't 20 times and something happened. It was 3 times in a row. So,
right.
Which kind of scared me. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm too good at that right now, you know? But I will take anything that we harvest, because I look at deer harvesting as the same thing as harvesting herbs and plants, and you have to have that utmost respect and care. Yeah. We actually put food in the deer's mouth as their last meal, and we put tobacco down. And indigenous people's relationship to the land and animals and plants is, I think it's a lot different in the sense that in order for us to retain our sovereignty, we have to exercise our treaty rights. And if we don't exercise our treaty rights, there could be a possibility that the federal government could say, well, you guys aren't exercising your treaty rights, so why should you even exist? So we're almost obligated to continue this. And as a result of that, we also have to make sure the water is clean and the land is clean, and because how we're already being told we can only eat, you know, 1 fish a month or something like that.
Right. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, so I mean, most people don't, but that's so we're obligated to kind of pass down these teachings. And you know, we have vegetarians and stuff like that, but if we were all vegetarian, there's a question on whether we could even exist, because the federal government would say, well, you're not exercising your treaty rights, so what's the sense? Because that's a big part of us, with our sovereignty with the federal government.
Okay. So your YouTube channel is called Spirit Man from the Sun.
Spirit Man from the Sun. It's on YouTube, and it is. I'm excited to do it. Actually, we have a lot of footage that is going to be put into the shows, and the first one is tentatively titled Cold Blooded, and it's about the coldest time of the year to go into the water, and during a storm advisory, and it is extremely. I think you'll be pretty interested to watch it. Totally. I mean, I'm not going to have every episode be like that, you know, so this is certainly more on the adventure side, but we do talk about some plants in there.
Nice.
And we talk about the experience a bit, and then you get to witness, you know, 25-mile-an-hour winds that are blowing during the snow. It's pretty intense.
When is that episode going to be released, do you know?
We're working on editing it right now. I'm hoping within the next week or two. Maybe by the time this is ready, we could kind of do it at the same time.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Do you mind sharing where you got the name Spirit Man from the Sun?
Spirit Man from the Sun was in a shake tent in Panema, Minnesota. Shake tent. So a shake tent ceremony is a very old ceremony that is not really done too much now. And what it is a medicine person goes into what is shaped like one of those old-fashioned milk bottles. It's like that's the tent. And there's a pole that's in it, and you open up, you know, and I'm respecting the ceremonies, by the way. I always got to do a disclaimer when I'm talking about ceremonies, so I'm just kind of giving you the gist of it, just for understanding. But you reach into there with, and you touch the pole, and the medicine person's in there, and he sings songs. And what he does at that point, what we believe, is he connects to the Creator, or he connects to the spirits that are out there. And he asks them, after you give them tobacco and gifts, he asks them, what is his name? What is this person's name? Now, either the name comes to him or it doesn't. He keeps singing. He keeps singing. And when I was there, the experience, it was almost like the universe was bending the way he sounded. It was like twisting upside down. And it was really quick, actually. Just within 30 seconds, he came out. He was all excited, and he just looked at me. He goes, "Your name is Spirit Man from the Sun." And I'm like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "Well, how do you say that in Anishinaabe?" He's like, "He's a Suinene." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that's how I got my name. Now, sometimes we change our name. We get different names throughout the time. We might feel compelled to get another name. I've been wondering about that since I've been having these experiences with these mountain lions. If there's some. So I would have to go to a traditional elder to ask them that question, which I haven't had the opportunity to do so. So sometimes we have changed our names throughout our lives, depending on some circumstances that might happen, that might be signs that you're evolving to something else. But Spirit Man from the Sun is my first name, and that I'll probably always keep to some extent. So.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about Herbal Lodge before we wrap up and get out of here?
Sure.
I know you've got a herbal products company. We talked about the chaga earlier, some of your salves, but what is Herbal Lodge all about? What do you do there?
Okay, so Herbal Lodge, we started back about 15 years ago, and basically we created salves that were of traditionally knowledged. We wanted to do things sustainable. We wanted to do things that were tied in with the traditional Anishinaabe culture. We didn't want to use bear grease, which is what was traditionally used, because we didn't feel at that time people would be accepting of that. Plus, at that time, the knowledge was that it had to be put into a fridge. But we used extra virgin olive oil. So we kind of pioneered for Native American herbal companies how to be a Native American herbal company, what the standards are. We don't use essential oils ourselves, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, to us, the process requires a lot more material. And unless you're processing your essential oils in-house, you really don't know what you're getting, because essential oils are made everywhere.
Right.
And they go through certain processes. They go through radiation, stuff like that when they're being shipped. So you really don't know. So that's the part we don't like. Yeah. That ability to know the quality. So we decided to stay away from them. And we just harvest our medicines, or we source them from organic farms. And we do like wild harvesting. We prefer that over the organic farms, just because things that are in the wild have a tendency to have more resilience. And there's a teaching that we've learned, a good friend of mine, Joe, he talked about how certain plants, when they have diseases on them, or they're not perfect, that when you think about it, they are releasing more constituents, more chemicals. There's more activity going on there, which makes them stronger. So in other words, it's okay to pick that bad leaf that is like that, or that bad plant, because it's probably has more stronger medicine to it, because it's also dealing with its own stuff. It becomes stronger. It's kind of like how we become stronger as people when we have to encounter experiences that are not so great. It makes us stronger. So then people kind of come to us for our medicine, for our strength.
Awesome. You also sell like a chaga tea of some sort?
We specialize in pain relief, Minigan, which means to rub on, muscle pain, joint pain, arthritis. Minigan nerve, which is good for fibromyalgia, carpal tunnel, surgery operations, diabetic neuropathy, anything to do with tingling underneath the skin. Nojamok for dry skin, eczema, psoriasis, cracked hands, cracked feet, which I actually use for going out in the cold water, and it actually helps prevent, in my opinion, what do you call it? Frostbite.
Oh.
Helps prevent frostbite. It also prevents windshield. When you get the stinging on your face, it stops that from happening too as well. It's like a second coat of skin. And then the mushroom tea, that's chaga mushroom, which we source ourselves. And then the tamarack tea, which is good for anxiety and nerve damage.
Chaga grows all over here, doesn't it?
Kind of.
Okay. You've got your spot.
It used to grow a lot.
Yeah.
You know, but people have been harvesting a lot.
Popular, yeah.
And when we started doing it, you know, many moons ago, it was, I mean, we were finding gigantic pieces.
Well, why don't we wrap up a little bit? I want to say thanks one more time to Comfort Inn of Manistee.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did.
Manistee, Michigan. And I got to say, right across from the Comfort Inn is beautiful Lake Michigan.
Yes.
Like, you got panoramic views of it. So, and thanks, Nathan, for joining us on the show. Do you have any like closing thoughts you'd like to share with the audience before we get out of here?
You know, one of the things I've always encouraged is stay connected. You know, if you could go out and do walks in the nature, you observe birds. You know, I just really encourage everyone getting out there, no matter where you're at in life, what age you're at in life. It's very important that we stay connected to this planet and Mother Earth, and the best way to do it is actually being out there. No matter what it is you enjoy doing, what you love doing, just get out there and enjoy the beauty. It's something that we all know. All of us can say, I go on nature walks and I feel great afterwards. Well, you know,
100%.
when you're walking out there, you're breathing all that, the essential oils, everything. You know, it's just a really wonderful, great experience. So just stay connected.
Perfect way to wrap up the show. So thanks again, Nathan, for joining us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
we'll
for
see you in
having
the next episode of the Herbalist Hour. Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our Herb Rally YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an Herb Rally Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herbrally.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode, and take care.